Hello, everybody. Izzy Justice over here with Neuro 580. October the 10th is Mental Health Day, and we at Neuro 580 wanted to answer 3 questions for you in 3 separate videos. This is video 1. In this video, we're going to answer the question, what is the current state of mental health nationally and globally? In video 2, coming up, will be, how did we get here? Is there a chronological sequence of events from a neuroscience perspective that led us to the current crisis? And in the last video, we'll talk about solutions to that. So let's get going with video number 1. What is the current state of mental health from a neuroscience perspective? The first thing that I want to share with you is that the average EEG of a person alive today, so EEG is the measure of the noise in our heads. Our head has electricity, we can measure it. The average EEG of a person alive today is the equivalent of a schizophrenic patient from the 1940s and 1950s. This is a sign that our brains are simply consuming way too much stimuli, and there's just a lot of noise in our head on average right now. This results in, on average, 65% of the time that our mind is wandering. That basically means 65% of the time, you are not where your body is. Your mind is thinking about something else. The number one distraction, believe it or not, is not something external. It's not someone moving or a text message or a video. It's our own internal monologue dealing with all of the noise that is in our head because our brains are just consuming way too much stimuli. This results in the average focus time of being less than 10 seconds. Think about this. If you're at work trying to write an email, be in a meeting, pay attention on a call, talk to someone and have a meaningful conversations, every 10 seconds, you're going to lose focus of the task at hand. From a mental health perspective, the stigma that is associated with mental health is still quite prevalent. I have to say without question that it is significantly better than it was a few years ago, thanks in large part to well-known celebrities and professional athletes who've made it okay to talk about it. But generally in minority communities, in the Latino community, in the African American community, in the Asian communities, mental health and mental illness mean one and the same thing when they're in fact not. Mental illness is a clinical condition, and mental health is just a symptom of being a human being and our brains just consuming way too much stimuli. If you're in a leadership role, if you're head of a household, or if you are a leader in a company or an organization, you've been there because you are tough. You're supposed to have all of the answers. And it's very difficult for people in those roles to, seek mental health support. Men in general also fall into that category. So if you think about it, it doesn't leave that many people that are okay talking about the mental health challenges that we all face. COVID, without question, was a traumatic event that we all shared. If you look at the definition of a traumatic event from a psychology or a clinical psychology perspective, it is sudden, it is immediate, it is an event that you did not expect, you were surprised by, you don't have the tools to deal with it, and it impacted significant portions of your life. COVID checks every single box of a traumatic event, and just remember, like all traumatic events, we have PTSD, and the P in PTSD means post. And for all of us, post could be any time period from weeks to months, and in many cases, years later. So we have to be very careful when we deal with trauma to realize that post could mean a very, very long time. In 2021, last year, almost 2 billion diagnoses did not occur in the healthcare systems. That means for all kinds of reasons, financial reasons, logistics reasons, fear of catching COVID, all those kinds of things, most human beings did not go to the hospital for routine kinds of things or even chronic kinds of illnesses. And so a significant portion of us are still carrying those symptoms. Over 90% of employees said that the place that they work, so the workplace, the work environment, causes them stress. Working with other people, working with deadlines, the general culture and climate and politics of the workplace environment is a significant cause of stress. Not to mention the logistics of it, getting up in the morning, getting dressed, getting your family ready, commuting there, parking somewhere, having to manage, where you eat lunch and then the commute back. But the general workplace environment and the workplace lifestyle is without question a cause of stress, which has led almost every organization, as long as you have employees, human beings working in your environment, to make mental health a top priority. The last thing I want to share with you in terms of current state from a neuroscience perspective is that there are almost 16 billion devices in the world today. That's 2 for every human being alive. Now, that ratio isn't quite fair. I, for example, have many more than 2. But the point of this is that there will never be a shortage of the stimulation that the brain is consuming. Our brains are already overstimulated, and that is a spigot that we're not going to be able to shut off. So the current state from a neuroscience perspective on mental health does not look very good. In the second video, I'm going to talk to you about how it is that we actually got here.